You're listening to Expat Radio, your worldwide friend.
Right, we're going live to America this morning. After the clock in the morning over there.
Happy day.
Happy day?
Happy day.
Oh,
Good morning.
I've got Whoopi Goldberg on then. Morning, Crissie. How are you?
Oh, my gosh, Dave. I've been running around the house because the silly smoke detectors are beeping.
Is it?
I didn't know which one of the 5 were beeping, so I ripped them all out of the ceiling and threw them outside.
Oh, my gosh.
Are you sure it's the smoke detector and not the dishwasher door that's open? Because I've done that before in the past and I looked a right plonker. And then I threw the dishwasher outside, which didn't look good.
Well, I don't know if they're outside beeping or not, but it wasn't the dishwasher because they're not beeping now. So
Aren't they?
I was like, oh, good Lord. Why? Of all mornings, right?
Or it wasn't a vehicle reversing outside your bedroom window, was it?
No.
This vehicle is not reversing. At least you...
Oh, my gosh.
Well, yes.
If I lived in the city, that would drive Hazel absolutely crazy because she went crazy with the smoke detector going beep, beep, beep.
But it pops you, it drives you potty. These drivers, these lorry drivers, or whatever you call them in America, what do you call a truck? You call it a truck, don't you? Not a lorry. You don't know what I'm talking about when I say a lorry, do you?
No, it's a truck.
I'll do the subtitles on the bottom of the screen for you. But a truck.
Okay, thank you.
When you drive a truck, most places, back in the UK, when you're reversing one of these things because they're that big, it'll go. And then it goes, this vehicle is now reversing. But obviously, if you're hearing that every time you're parking up somewhere, it'll drive you absolutely nuts.
Yes, we have those Toyota Priuses, and they just have those beeps in them too.
Do they?
Because you can't hear them at all.
Yeah, well, I have a beep in mine when I'm reversing, but normally the dogs are going, what you doing? You're going to hit the wall. So I know very well when I've got the dogs in the car that I'm going to clatter something. But when you can't hear anything, all you can hear is... If you're getting closer to it, Jesus, she makes it! And then
danger, danger, danger.
Yeah, exactly. So what we're talking about today and our special guest?
Oh, my gosh. Yes, we have special guest Crissie Russo here with us today. And I have an awesome story about how we met. So both of us are, of course, dog lovers. And there's this little event that happens in a neighboring town of mine called Hops and Harley, which is beer and dogs. How could you not like that? And she lives all the way in New York, so thousands and thousands of miles away. And they posted this post on Facebook about here's the new pint glass for this year's, event. And she wanted to know if they would send it to her. And they said, sorry, we can't send it through the mail. And I didn't know her. I had no idea who she was. But on this post, I'm like, hey, I'll just buy you one and send you one. And from then on, we have just became very, very good friends. And we have a lot in common. And we chat quite a bit. And so she has an amazing story. And I'm not going to tell it. But we have about an hour, Crissie and I. And we're going to dive into the story of giving. But tell us a little bit about you.
Well, good morning. I'm a physical education and health teacher at a high school here in Horseheads, New York. And everybody always thinks the city, but Horseheads is upstate New York. Mm-hmm. So, pretty small area. And I coach track, volleyball, and do a little personal training on the side part-time.
Yeah, there's a little tiny bit of feedback with your headset. Are you dancing around, moving around this morning, or is that?
I don't know.
Do you have a microphone?
Let's try this. Is that better?
Yes, that sounds much, much better. It sounded like something just like maybe rubbing up against the microphone piece of it or something. So awesome. Way, way better. Sorry to interrupt you. I just didn't want to make everyone sure that they can hear what's happening.
I thought she was wrapping Christmas presents at the same time then. It sounded like she had
Yes, she's multitasking, Dave. She's up early.
There we go.
Oh, you girls can
She's
do
had
everything.
her coffee.
Yes, very much so. You've got the Christmas tinsel and everything at the side of you. You've got the holly and the ivy, and then we're having a chat at the same time. Laddered on mulled wine at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, my gosh. Well, she's been up for a couple of hours listening to the show this morning because she was so excited to come on. So she's probably got a lot done this morning. But so sorry to interrupt you, Crissie. So you're a physical education teacher. You live in upstate New York, so it's not really the city. And so your story is interesting and it's beautiful and I love it and I want to give it some due time. So we are going to go to song, but I'm not sure what song we're going to play yet. Dave, you have something on deck for us to play?
I was going to surprise you.
Okay, I'm excited.
Well, I was going to play Always There, Jocelyn Brown.
Yeah.
So then I thought,
like it.
Shall I play that or shall I? And then I thought, no, I will.
That was a great song.
Oh, it's quality, that. I used to play that all the time in the nightclubs in Manchester, that.
Yeah, I'm sure people could get jiggy with it.
Well, Jocelyn Brown, now, when she sings that live, now, she sits on a stool on the stage and does it. She's enormous, but a voice, what a voice. Oh.
Yeah, I love it when people have an amazing voice. So before we go on, I was listening to the news and they're making some dude watch Bambi every week for a year-long prison sentence. What is that all about?
Yeah,
That's here in America?
You can imagine that, can't you, in the prison cell?
Oh,
They're going to chain him to a wall and say, right, you've got to look at that. You're going to put his head in a brace and say, right, you've got to look at that now for I don't know how long.
Some of the things people come up with, I was like, what? Am I hearing this right?
What was the judge thinking? What is the judge thinking? I know what I'll do to him. I'll make him watch Bambi for a year. That'll stop him. My backside, he'll be sick to death of deer. You'll want to go and cause a holocaust of deer. Once he's seen Bambi I don't know how many times, won't he?
Oh my God, yeah.
I'll just nuke deer.
Right.
I'll just nuke the whole of Yellowstone Park will be gone. And then it'll be this plonker that's got rid of it.
Yeah. I don't know what people are thinking.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God. So, anyway, back to my dear friend Crissie. So, Crissie has an incredible story, the gift of life. And so not only does she serve her community as a teacher, she has an incredible story that we're going to get into today. And so I'm going to let her tell her story because, as I've said before, people have stories. Everyone has one, and it matters. Your story matters. So, Crissie, tell us your story of giving of life.
All right. Well, first, I guess you'd have to understand a little bit about me. I grew up on a farm and was always around animals and just a lot of helping. Like, you really have to give of yourself. It's, freezing cold and you got to go out there and break ice, give them water, do all kinds of things. If one's dying or giving birth, you got to be out there helping and giving of yourself. So I kind of just have always had this thing about helping other people, being insightful to the needs of others. And so one day, it was like almost a year ago, at my desk at work, and this flyer comes in an email of a gentleman who works in my school district as a bus driver. And it said that he needed a kidney, and I just kind of clicked it off. I was like, oh gosh, poor guy. I don't know him. It's too bad. And just went about my business. And almost every day or every other day, I saw that flyer somewhere. I'd go to the grocery store, there's the flyer. I'd be on Facebook, there's the flyer. I'd be on Instagram, there's the flyer. And I just kept seeing his eyes. And something just said to me, you need to do something. And I was like, no, that's just kind of not me. So then one day I was buying something, I think it was like a Lime-A-Rita, and they asked for my ID.
Yeah.
And there on my ID, it says I'm an organ donor. And that kind of hit me, and I got thinking, why is it on there if I'm going to wait till I'm dead? And so I called up, kind of found out about what I had to do, and they said, well, you might not even be a match. You're not a relative. You don't know this person. And so I got a blood test, and they said, okay, your blood's the right type. Now let's do another test. And so I had to walk around for 24 hours carrying this jug and peeing in it. So I'm at work carrying this gallon jug around, and every time I peed, I had to go in this jug and keep it at a certain temperature and all this stuff. It was really kind of funny. So I turned it in, and then they said, we're getting in touch. And 3 weeks went by, and I didn't hear anything. So I figured, I am not supposed to give. And kind of like, how could I be so wrong? I really felt this, and I'm usually pretty perceptive. So I thought maybe there's something wrong with me. So I called the organ donation center in Rochester, and they told me, well, you never took the tests. And I said,
Oh, God.
I did here locally. So they called and found out the hospital here never sent the information to the transplant center. Mm-hmm. And so they did, and then they said, you've been approved so far, so now you've got a couple days of testing. And then 2 months later, that came about, and I went through extensive testing and then found out I was a match. So that's kind of the story, how it all came about.
Yeah, wow. So when you were, you first saw the flyer and then you kept seeing it, did you feel like that was a sign? Did you feel like, oh, I have to pay attention to this? Or did you kind of blow the first couple off?
To be honest, I kind of blew the first couple off. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I grew up on a farm learning about giving and doing, but to give an organ to a complete stranger kind of seemed like, I don't know. You give money to strangers, you do a lot of things, but do you give an organ? And so I was a little hesitant, but the more I saw it, the more I knew this is what I have to do. And so I just started really investigating and looking into it. And my husband thought I was whacked.
I've been talking to people a little bit about this, some of my close friends, and a lot of them, go into that thought process of oh, what if I were in Crissie's shoes? What would I do? And so I think, thinking about that, even myself, what would I do if I was, this was sort of put in my world, in my universe, all these different signs and things that were happening. And I don't think we think about that until we're in that moment. So be in that moment. I can't really say I would do exactly what you did, because I don't know. So yeah, it's really interesting.
I think it kind of put it into perspective that when I was thinking about, was this the right decision or not, I was like, here is a gentleman who nobody in his family is a match or appropriate for him. Mm-hmm. And what if it was my husband that needed a kidney? What if it was my sister, my mom, or my dad? And nobody in our family was a match. And I was hoping somebody would offer to step up and help them. And I just kind of felt like, hey, this is what I need to do. And
yeah.
There it was. There wasn't an option when I looked at it from that point.
Right. So, we're going to take a quick break here in a second and jump into, some of those thought processes and, some of the, risks and rewards and those sorts of things. We're going to go to a song, and Dave always tells me what song we're going to play, and I'm really excited, except for, Dave, I have no idea what song is next, because I feel like you're giving me a foreign language.
I've written it down there, and it says Jamiroquai, Little L.
Oh.
You didn't know that one, did you?
No.
Expat Radio, wishing you a very Merry Christmas.
Right, we're back live with the girls this morning.
I love that song.
Did you like that one? I thought you'd have a bit of a jig around to that one.
Yeah, I can't believe that I didn't know how to say that. I was looking at that going, I have no idea.
Did you think,
now I know.
Did you think it was Welsh?
I had no idea what it was.
He wants me to pronounce what? But Jemima Ramas? He hadn't. Somebody said to me once that I had to pronounce something in French that was very, very difficult for the French to pronounce. Never mind the English. Well, a Mancunian anyway. And I came out with this, and all the French looked at me. It was live on stage when I did a music festival, and they looked at me when they announced this, and everyone just went. You could have heard a pin drop. And as I said it, I slapped myself across the face, and everyone fell about the place laughing.
Oh my gosh!
And ever since, I thought, right, if I pronounce something wrong, because if you say merci beaucoup when you're saying it, if you say it wrong, it normally means thank you very much. But if you say it wrongly, it actually ku means bum. So if you say it wrongly, you can actually say, thank you, you've got a nice ass. Now, if you say that to the wrong person, that's obviously a bit... I actually said it once to someone that was about 4 sizes bigger than me, this lady that works in a supermarket here, and she winked at me for about 3.5 years, and I hadn't got a clue why. And then I found out years later that my pronunciation meant that I actually was telling her that, thanks very much, you've got a nice ass, goodbye. And I was telling her that every time I'd gone in this supermarket.
Oh, my God. Dave, of course that would happen to you.
Exactly. So, on that note, back to yourselves.
Yes. So now we can't stop laughing. But oh goodness.
She had an ass for the size of Colorado, by the way. If you're thinking how big was it, it was big. Trust me, huge.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Whew. Focus. Breathe. Okay. Now we're getting back into Crissie. So before we went to song and this funny story, we were talking a little bit about your mindset and how you decided that you were going to do this. But like, what's it like to know that you're a match and that you could, in fact, save another human's life?
You know, honestly, I think it's a lot of pressure. Mm-hmm. That kind of sounds, I guess, maybe weird, but it's scary because you're kind of wondering, how's this going to work? Is it going to work? If I'm giving something of myself, what if it doesn't work? And then what's going to happen to me, kind of? So there is an element of kind of being a little afraid, but it's also an honor to know, like, this person was brought into your life, a complete stranger, for some reason, and obviously that reason was for me to help. And to know that, you know, you're allowing someone to be, in this case, a father, a husband, for maybe 10, 15 more years of their life it's an honor, and it's very humbling too. Because why was I chosen? I just feel like I was chosen, or it wouldn't have hit me. Out of all the people in my town that could have done something or could have been a match, they weren't. So I just feel like something larger than myself chose me, and I was supposed to do it. And so I would say it's kind of scary. It's an honor. It's humbling. And it makes you feel good, but at the same time, it kind of doesn't make you feel good, because I just felt like I did what I was supposed to do. And, you know, there's no really, I don't know how you'd put it. There's no word, yes, for just doing what you feel like you're supposed to do.
Yeah. I know, like, in the beginning when you first told me, you said, I'm not really going to tell anybody. I'm just going to do this. Do you remember the moment when you knew you wanted to donate? Like, what was happening in your mind? Like, okay, now I'm a match. I know that I could help this person. Like, that final moment when you're like, yes, let's do this. Like, do you remember that?
I do. And I just sat and cried. And it wasn't a bad cry. It was more a cry of, I just remember sitting there and tears were streaming down my face, and I couldn't really understand why I felt compelled to do it. I just knew in my heart that I had to do it, and I had a peace about it, even though I was nervous, even though I didn't still understand everything about it. And I didn't tell anybody. Like, my husband knew, you knew, but my immediate family didn't know. Nobody I worked with knew. Even the gentleman didn't know. You know, I didn't want anything said in case something didn't work. I didn't want a big deal. I didn't do it for myself, so I didn't, you know, walk around going, oh, I'm donating an organ.
Right.
It just didn't feel right to infringe on somebody else's, maybe on their story at the time and whatnot. So.
Yeah. So before you made that decision, did you, I'm assuming you did some research and looked at the risks and the rewards and all that sort of stuff. What was that process like?
Well, you know, it's really kind of an interesting process, because you read everything and they tell you, yes, it's a major surgery, so there's no more risks to it as far as the surgery aspect than anything else going in for a hysterectomy or an appendectomy, anything like that. You're going under the anesthesia. The risk of me getting, or any kidney donor for that matter, renal failure when you're perfectly healthy as a result of giving a kidney is a very small percentage. So if I never gave my kidney, I was like under 0% chance of ever getting renal failure. And now I go to like 1%. So as long as, I don't get anything unforeseen in my future, and I work at staying healthy, which is basically not much for me to change in my lifestyle, there's not a high level of risk as far as that looks. But, there's a risk to anything.
Right, right.
So, you look at all of that, and they do give you a nice team. My team is called a donor advocate team, and they only work on my behalf or the donor's behalf. So they they're not like let's get this recipient, her kidney at all cost. They thoroughly look at every single thing, and they probably asked me 500 times if I wanted to change my mind. Right up until I had the IV in my arm, and they still kept asking me until I was out if I wanted to change my mind. So it's, they give you every opportunity to decide if this is really what you want. They physically check you out. I don't think I've ever been so thoroughly examined in my life. It's a little humiliating. But, you get through it, and you go through psychological testing as well. So you're really pretty much looked over good.
Wow. So, you talked about how you told your husband, Paul, and me, and just a couple of people, and talk about the moment when you shared it with a little bit more people, like the people you work with or your extended family, and what made you decide to do that? Well,
the first part is kind of really cool because the people who put out the flyer, they knew I had asked about the donation process, but they didn't know that I got tested, and they sent me an email and said, "Hey, Scotty got a kidney donor," and I was like, "Oh, really?" And I knew all of the time that it was me, and so then they kind of asked a little bit, or whatever. I came out and said, "Yes, I know it's me," and so they had a luncheon over at the bus garage. I went over on my lunch, and a lot of the drivers and different things put on a luncheon so he and I could meet. And that's where it really first became public. But then we still kept it within our small circle. And to meet him I was so nervous, probably more nervous than I was to do this interview. And he was just such a great person that alleviated any maybe fear that I had or concern that, maybe I didn't want to go through it or anything like that. Just meeting him, I knew, wow, here's a fantastic person. And since then, they've become sort of like family to me, so that's been really cool. And then my mom and dad and my sisters and so forth, I didn't tell any of them until the surgery was scheduled. Mainly, I kept it to myself as well because I wanted the decision to be purely my own. Right. And not have people be so concerned for me that they created doubts or made me think it was wrong, or I changed my mind because maybe mom cried or something. Right. But surprisingly, my parents were very supportive, so it was nice. My sister's reaction was, "Oh," and then and that's all I got out of her was, "Oh." And her and I don't really talk about it a lot, so I don't know if we're on the same page still to this day about it, but that's okay. It is for everyone. It's a very personal thing.
Yeah, that's amazing. So we're going to take another quick break, and then when we come back, we'll keep chatting it up. But we're going to go out to, I'm going to pronounce this one wrong, I'm sure, Apollo Nutini, Last Request.
Not far wrong.
Kind of got it right.
Did you? Did you kind of get that right? You did it
Kinda,
very
sorta,
well.
maybe.
Hey! Oh.
Yeah, I like it. You got me some good songs today, Dave.
Well, it's my job. There's nothing worse. Years ago, right, I went in a library, and I went in this library, and I went up, there was a guy in front of me, and he said to the woman at the counter where you go to get where you check out the books or whatever, he said, can I have fish, chips, peas and gravy on a tray, please, love? She said, shh. She said, you're in a library. He went, oh, sorry. He said, can I have fish, chips, peas and gravy on a tray? And she just looked at him and shook her head, and he walked out. That was it. So there you go.
I bet it was some sort of prank.
Well, no. Well, the other one was this bloke had gone in there one day. She told me about this. She said this bloke had gone in there and gone up to the counter and said, "Excuse me, love, have you got any more books on suicide?" She said, "Well, we had loads over in the corner over there." She said, "But nobody brings them back." Anyway, on that note.
On that note, we are back with Crissie Russo, and she's telling us her amazing, beautiful story about donating an organ to save another person's life.
I've got to tell you about a bloke I knew that gave a donation as well once for a transplant, but I'll tell you at the end of this.
Okay, that'll be awesome. We just have a couple more questions, and then I'm sure I would love to hear that story. So, Crissie, I ask these questions to everyone that comes on, these next few questions. And I'm going to start with, who inspires you the most and why?
Yeah, that's a good question, and probably the answer might surprise you. I don't really have one person per se. A lot of people pick an athlete or a movie star or probably Dave, for that matter, with his radio show. But I'd have to say, I really think what inspires me the most from day to day are the underdogs. All those kinds of people who fight and plow through all of their struggles. And, I see kids come into school every day with, cutting issues. And just to get up and come to school is the hardest part. Just doing that was a struggle for them. And, I'm worrying about what sneakers to pick out to match my outfit or something.
Right.
And it makes me humbled. Doing a lot of work, like I taught school in Bulgaria in the summer, and my husband and I went to Africa and did a missions trip. And just seeing all those people find happiness and struggle every day without the use of technology, without phones, internet, all of that, just really brings home a sense of inspiration for how blessed I am to make the most of everything.
That's so beautiful. And so along those lines, what scares you the most?
Frogs. Frogs. I totally scream at frogs.
Frogs? You don't want that transplanted on you, do you? Wait a minute. You can't be going in a hospital. You can't be going in the operating theatre now. Just keep calm. There's nothing to worry about. What are your major concerns? And then you come out with frogs. Frogs. I'm running around the operating theatre. Frogs! Don't let any frogs in here, for Christ's sake.
Oh my God, no, seriously. I would, if they had even pictures of frogs freak me out. They really.
Oh my gosh.
You're not going to love it in France then, are you? My God, you'll be having a panic attack every 5 seconds over here. Turning up on your plate. What the hell's that?
Oh God.
But probably if you all right, so probably that's my biggest thing that scares me. But in my whole life, I'd really say probably being a failure scares me, losing my drive. If every day, if you stop trying to be a better person for more than a day, I I just wonder what would happen. Like, it's sort of my motivation. I don't want to be one of those people that just shuts down and forgets what they're blessed with and forgets how to give to others and help them become their best. And that scares me to let others down. But it doesn't scare me as much as frogs. I mean, really, that's an issue.
I would think like snakes, spiders, those kinds of things. But frogs.
I'm just visualising now something turning up on a plate in a restaurant, and her husband's had to say, "Will you camouflage the frog's legs for us, please?" So she hasn't got a clue what it is.
Oh God! Thank God that's not like a normal thing around here. Serving frogs' legs. Well, maybe it is up there. It's not here in Colorado.
Well, you get it all the time. You
unique
get it for
things,
breakfast,
but yeah.
They have it on toast here. Frog's legs on toast. The ankle's a bit crunchy, but
Oh, Dave. Barf.
Lovely. And if you cut the nails first, that helps. There's nothing
Stop
worse
it.
than eating a
I'm
frog's
gonna
toenail.
barf on the radio.
How funny.
Okay, next serious question, and then we can be really silly. Crissie, tell us what is the difference between bravery and courage?
That's so hard because I think people, they use that word a lot. Like some people have told me I'm brave for donating a kidney, or they told me what a courageous thing to do. Mm-hmm. And, when you look at it, really, if you're courageous about something, you really don't have, no, you do have fear. It's more like it's in the presence of understanding the consequences, choosing to fight against something. Mm-hmm. If you're brave, you just kind of go into something. And probably like the story of David and Goliath is a great example of courage versus bravery. Because Goliath, he had everything. So like he wasn't, he was huge. And then they said like, little David, he walks up there, but he wasn't afraid of a thing. He didn't have a gun. He didn't have an army behind him. And so really, I kind of look at it as to be courageous, you got to have things like concern, compassion, devotion, a passion, a drive to do something, love for a person, and that motivates you to do something. Mm-hmm. And so I don't look at myself as brave because I was scared going in to donating that kidney. But, the ability to have compassion for someone and to see that there was more to their life than wondering if they were going to live really helped me to do what I needed to do. So
that's awesome. So any advice for someone who's considering doing what you've done?
Know your why. If you don't know why you really want to do it, I think you would have a difficult time going through everything. And do your research, talk to other people, really reach out to people who've donated, and still keep in mind that it's always a personal experience. Not everybody's experience will be the same. And be committed to your health. If you're not committed to, being a healthy person, probably a donation and the whole process isn't really something you'd want to get into.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my advice. If you feel called to do it and you feel you can bless someone and your head's in the right place, go for it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So if people, have questions or want to connect with you, how can they follow you or get in touch with you?
Sure. I'd love to talk to anybody about this and get into it a little more personal. They can reach me at my Facebook, Crissie Gorges Russo, and Instagram. I'm on Instagram, and just tell me that you heard, my story on the Expat Radio Show with Dave and Christine, and that way I won't think it's a weirdo reaching out to me. Or somebody like, I'm going to open a page and there's going to be a face of a frog or something.
Right, because that would just kill the deal for you. Like, done.
Ribbit.
Yeah, I get that.
And I would love to share my experience and answer questions and help anybody, through it that would like to know more.
That's awesome. So, Dave, Any questions for Crissie, or do you want to tell us your story about your donor friend?
Yeah. Well, he was very strange. This, my friend. He was in a bit of a predicament. The problem was he only had now, don't take offence to this. He only had a very small penis. Now, he wanted a transplant, you see. Now, the only thing, when he went to the hospital and he asked about this, he said, have you got anything that you can do about this? And they said, well, we have. She said, but we haven't got any penises left. The only thing we've got is an elephant's trunk. So they said, it's a big operation, so be prepared. So he'd gone in for the operation, and they attached this elephant's trunk, and it seemed to work a treat. The morning after, he was quite happy with it. So a couple of weeks later, they got let out of hospital, and he was out and about with his friends. He thought, I'm dying for a night out. So he'd gone out and about with his friends, and he was there in the nightclub, and he stood there at the bar, and he's having a right dance away. And the next minute, these two women are stood at this over on the other side of the bar, on the angle of the bar, and all of a sudden, one of the women said to me, she went, oh my God. She said, what's wrong? She said, have you seen that over there? She said, that man's got his penis out. She said, oh, well, if you've seen one, you've seen them all. She said, no, you haven't. You've not seen anything like this. She said, that thing's eating the nuts off the bar.
Oh, Dave.
There you go.
I think Dave should come to New York and co-teach with me one day. The high school kids would love him.
I'm there. Trust me, I'm there. I've not got the only thing. The thing. Have you heard about this? Apparently, this multi-billionaire, whatever they call them, is it a bit? What's after a billionaire? What do they call them? There's a millionaire, a billionaire, and then someone that's got a few quid. What do they call them?
I don't know. Bazillionaire?
Yeah, well, something like that. He's built the replica of the Titanic in Dubai.
Oh.
In Dubai. This thing's being launched. You think I'm joking. I'm not. I'm deadly serious now. It's being launched in 2022, and it's built in Dubai, and it's going to sail on the route that the original Titanic went on. Now, how many people, obviously it's going to try and dock in New York, but how many people are going to buy tickets to get on that?
God, I don't know.
They're going to be queuing up like around the back of we've sold 3. That's going well. That's paid for the boat. Nobody's going to go, oh, I can't wait to get on this. It's a complete replica. The only thing that isn't obviously the same is the navigational. They've got a bit of sat-nav in there, thank God, so they can work out if something's going to come and hit them at the end of the day. But everything, and enough lifeboats. So that's the only difference. Everything else is exactly the same. But when they put it, there's like a scaled version of that in front of one of these massive cruise liners that they have nowadays. It's enormous. It's like tiny. It's like going across there on a yacht. So I won't be. If I come over, I'm not coming over on that. That's what I was going down the road of. I won't be turning up.
Yes.
I won't be turning up on Titanic 2.
Oh, please don't do that. Come on an airplane like a modern person would do. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
So.
Well, what they give you now? And a mate of mine went skydiving once, only once, because the problem was when you get on these planes and you get ready to launch yourself out, they say, right, pick your parachute and away you go. Well, this plonker he didn't pick a parachute. He picked someone's rucksack, a backpack, and he launched himself out of the plane. And never...
Oh my!
1,000, 2,000, 3,000. Never heard of him again.
Oh.
Bang, gone.
Oh. They shouldn't put the rucksacks and the parachutes in the same area on this plane.
No, well, it didn't look good.
No.
The thing was, the Persians loved the lunchbox that was in there, covered about 3 square miles when he landed.
Oh.
So there was a buffet all over the floor when the plane landed.
It's not good. Not good.
Yeah.
At all.
So when you go skydiving, make sure, for God's sake, you pick the right one. And if you're doing it, get attached to a person that's got a parachute on him. Don't just launch yourself out of a plane. Right.
Good advice. Good advice. There's the Mile High skydiving here, which is worldwide known. So you should come and skydive. When you're here in America going to New York, you'll have to come to Colorado to skydive.
Not in my luck, I'll land on a bloody cactus.
There's no cactus here.
In there?
That's in Arizona. No cactus.
I'm obviously crap at geography then.
There may be a few cactus here, but really we don't have them like Arizona does.
No, in my luck, I'll find the one that's there and I'll land on it.
Yeah, probably. That's how it works, right?
Yeah. So should we go out on a
All
song?
right.
I've got a special song for her lined up.
Okay, so thank you, Crissie. Love you. You're amazing. Your story's awesome. I'm so honored to have you on today. So we're going to go out with Jackie Wilson, Higher and Higher. Thanks, Dave. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas. That's what you think about
Christmas.
Jackie Wilson. We're not going out on that. We're going out on the frog chorus, Paul McCartney. Ding,
Oh.
ding, ding. Hey! I couldn't resist that when I found out about frogs. Ribbit.